I'm Dylan, and welcome to Twisted Wrench Garage.
What's up, guys, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Twisted Wrench Garage. Back out here working on the truck again. If you guys realized or noticed from the previous videos, you guys may have noticed that she does have a transmission leak. I have been underneath here. I did go ahead and get a few things done. I got it cleaned up underneath the transmission around where the shift linkage and transmission lines and the neutral safety switch is. This one's obviously covered in mud because it's a four-wheel drive truck. It's been taken out and driven, but you guys can tell got a little bit of a mess going here, and that's just all dirt and mud and stuff. But we're out here trying to figure out where our transmission leak is coming from, and my suspicion, or my opinion as to what the culprit is going to be the shift shaft seal. I went ahead and cleaned around that. There's another possibility of it being the front seal in the transmission. We're hoping that's not the case, because if that's the case, we have to pull the transmission along with the transfer case to get that replaced. There's also a couple lines that could be leaky. There's also a rear seal that could be leaking, but I don't believe it's coming from that. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing to try to figure out this leak, and show you the super scientific method that I'm gonna go about trying to find it, and then we can try to figure out about getting it fixed. Another thing I think I'm gonna do today is I think I'm gonna pull the gauge cluster out of this and take it home this afternoon, and I may start working on it this afternoon, getting it cleaned up, getting the needles repainted. I've got a white face gauge kit for it and some new LED bulbs to go in it, kind of like what I did to my red 87 Project Ramona. Also, if you guys didn't catch last episode, we got a ton of progress done to the truck. The whole front end is looking real good now. If you guys get an opportunity, check that video out. But let's get underneath here and let's find out what's going on with this transmission. All right, I don't know if you guys will get a good view of it, but right in this area, right below that little arm there, is what I call the shift shaft seal, or what they call the shift shaft seal. On Ramona, that was leaking, and I'm almost betting that this is the culprit of this one too. So what we're going to do is I went ahead and cleaned this area up with some brake parts cleaner, got a lot of the mud and stuff pulled off of it. I'm going to take some paper towels, and this is my super scientific method. I'm going to shove them right there underneath that arm and wrap it around there, and we're going to let it sit overnight, and we're going to see if it picks up any transmission fluid around that little seal. From what I can tell, the lines don't appear to be leaking, but I'll put a paper towel around that as well. And then what we're also going to do is I'm going to pull the inspection cover off of this bell housing, and I'm going to clean inside there as well if it need be, and I'm going to throw some paper towels in there as well, and we're going to find out where this is leaking from that way. That super scientific method should let us know where the leak's coming from. So let me get in here and get these paper towels put in here, and we'll find out what's going on. All right, guys, with our super scientific method in place, we've got a paper towel stuffed underneath that shifter arm linkage, which is going to be the shift shaft seal. We've got another paper towel zip tied around that line, one shoved underneath the front line right over there. Let me get you guys a good view. It's kind of hard. And then we've also I've got a paper towel shoved in between the inspection plate and the bell housing. You actually have to remove the starter to get the bell housing, or the bell housing inspection plate off of these ones. Forgot about that prior to me getting over there. I remembered once I got to starting to get all the bolts out, I remembered that the starter actually has to come out. So we've got that all set up. We're gonna let that sit overnight, see what we can find out when it comes to the leak. My personal opinion, I think it's leaking from that shift shaft seal. because from what I've noticed is when it leaks, it will leak. When it leaks from that shift shaft seal, I noticed on my truck, it leaks from there. It'll pool up underneath it. It'll run to the front or the back. It just kind of depends on how the truck's sitting. And it can, I've seen it go drip right off of the front of that pan and the back. So I mean, it's definitely kind of a pain in the butt to try to figure this out. So like I said, we've got our super scientific method in there. We're gonna find out what that tells us tomorrow. So let me go ahead and get inside the truck here. Let's start getting this cluster pulled out. As you guys can see, oh, we got another big mess. That's just from me cleaning up around that inspection plate. This thing has seen some mud. Oh, all right, guys. Sorry for the banging. Got some body work going on over in the other bay. But I wanted to share a little update with you guys. I was tracking down some wiring issues with these rear lights. Still gotta look at the front. I think I know what's going on with it. But over here, where this line actually goes from that hole, it comes over to here, and that's this right here. And then you have it, which splits over to the passenger side, comes over to here. And if you can tell, well, you guys can see that. Let me move the light a little better. Somebody had been in here once already, and they used some duct tape to secure their connections with what looks like just twisted together wires. And then I also found that there is a busted ground there, and then that green wire right there is our turn signal wire that goes to this passenger side, as well as this white wire right here, which goes right there where that little light is, right there. And that's our ground for this back section of lights. So we had a bad ground there, we have a snipped ground there, and we also have a cut turn signal wire. And then I need to also address this here, which I'm not a big fan of. So I'm gonna go ahead and get in here, get this stuff fixed up, and we'll get her tested out. All right, that's all patched up. Got her re-taped for weathering purposes. Got her patched there. Went ahead and replaced all the connections there. Got all those connected securely. Repaired that, as well as replaced all of those connections. So let's get that tail light put back in. I've already tested and working. I already tested it and it is working. So let me show you guys what we got. All right, we got that all patched up back there. I got that rear tail light back in the passenger side. Let's give them a test. Turn this key on. Running lights on. Let's go take a look. All right, we got one running light there. We got one there. Got a little bit of a low tire situation here. Might have to take a look at that. All right, we got running light, running light. All right, let's go check our turn signals. Alright, there's our left turn signal. And you guys can see from the reflection, it is working there. Go check the front. We are working there. Check that right signal now. There you can see it's on the dash. Check the front. Bam, we got a turn signal there with running light still over there. And then you can see from the reflection again, we got this other turn signal working as well. So all the lights are working except for these reverse lights. If you guys noticed from the view before, that neutral safety switch with the 3 little plugs that are sticking out of it, that's your neutral safety switch, and that's what controls the reverse light. So it may just need that plugged in, and the reverse lights may work. So we'll figure that out later. Super happy that we were able to get these lights working. And we got this old girl out of here too. Holy crap, that's an old one. Audiovox cassette player. Did have some speakers in the door. Don't know exactly how old this thing is. Made in Japan. But pretty sure Ben's gonna get a new radio for this old girl, so we're just gonna go ahead and pop this out. That way it's out of our way. All right, that's all pulled. Cluster's out. I got the radio out as well. And we're gonna go ahead and take the cluster and the bezel home. We're gonna clean up the cluster, put some new white face gauges in that, put some new LED bulbs in it. We're gonna clean up the bezel, the cluster bezel itself as well, and I'm gonna throw some silver paint around the trim on that for him, like I did on mine. His did used to have it, but it is all worn off, so we're gonna make that thing look good again. All right, guys, we're back out here. We're underneath the truck, checking these towels. From what I can tell, that one there is dry. On the back line, the front line's dry. Shaft seal is soaking wet. And then if you look right over there, there's nothing on that. So our front seal is good. We don't need to pull this transmission. We do need to, however, change that shift shaft seal. Now I have done this job before. I did it on my 87 with the 904, which the shift shaft seal is basically the same for all of those models. But I'm gonna try to get you guys the best view possible on this whenever I'm doing this job. I'm gonna have him go ahead and order this. This is like a $2 seal, but these are the kind of seals that you really want to replace whenever you've got the transmission out of the truck, because you've only got so much room to get it tapped in there, and it can be a pain. So it is a kind of a hard job, but I'm going to try my best to show you guys how to do this job with the transmission in the truck, because I have done it once before, and I'm just hoping I'm able to be successful again. So once we get that issue resolved, that should sort out our transmission leak issues. So my suspicions were correct. I'm pretty happy that I've experienced this kind of leak before. All right, guys, sorry about the air leak. The tire machine has a small leak, so it leaks a little bit. I've got a little just soap and water in this bottle here. Went ahead and pulled off this passenger front. We're gonna squirt all the way around this bead here. And we'll do that on both the front and back. We're also going to hit our valve stem. And we're going to watch all of this for any kind of bubbles that appear. Obviously there's some bubbles from the sprayer, but you'll know when you find it, it'll actually have a lot of bubbles coming out of it. So one thing you can do when you're doing this front face is after you have sprayed your I see a little small something coming out of there. I don't see anything on this. Oh, right there. You guys see those little bitty bubbles popping up right there? There's a small leak right there. We still need to check the backside, but I'm thinking this may be our culprit right here. And I mean, sometimes what you can do is you can actually take a hammer, and I'll go find one here in just a second, and you can actually hammer on this area right here on the side, and sometimes you can seal that up. What I'm probably going to do though is I'm probably going to go ahead and break the bead on it, clean this lip of the wheel with a wire brush, and then throw it back together. I'm probably going to do the other side too, but I'm almost curious if it's leaking a little bit out of that valve stem too, but I mean, I am putting quite a bit of pressure on it. So I'm gonna get the underside of this sprayed. I'm gonna check it too, but I think that's our culprit for our small leak. And it is taking a long time for this tire to go down. Oh, look, there's another one right there. You can see it when you wipe the bubbles off. You'll see it start to slowly bubble back up. You can just run your whole finger around. Kind of wipes the bubbles off, then you'll be able to see where the bubbles are coming from. So we got one here, and then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the other side. Alright guys, this is the kind of stuff that I'm looking for that's causing our leak. Any kind of this corrosion, anything like that can cause those small leaks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this air grinder here with a wire brush. I'll go around the whole outside, and then I'll put the tire back on, and that should resolve any of our leaks. Alright guys, got that lip all cleaned up on both top and bottom. Should these look nice and clean. That corrosion could definitely cause some small leaks and cause you some problems. So let's get this tire thrown back on. All right, just finished checking the front side. This is the back side here. I believe we got all of our leaks resolved. It was just a dirty wheel. So let's get this old girl slapped back on the truck. All right, guys, so we found that leak. We got the part ordered and it is in. So this is going to be a Master Probe or a Timekin or a National. These numbers are all the same. It's going to be an 8609. That's going to be for the shift shaft seal replacement on a 727, a 904, 518. They're all generally the same. I mean, this same seal even works on like the newer 47 REs, I believe, too. So I've got a really cool old tool here. The gentleman here has let me borrow. It's a little old school seal puller. I'm going to see if I can use this to pull that seal out. Then I'm going to be using like a 23, 24, not 22 maybe socket. We're going to put that over that shaft seal to tap her down, and we need to make sure we get it fully seated. We'll see how this goes. Let's get in there and take a look. All right, guys, I'm trying to get you guys the best view possible. So there's going to be two arms on this shifter lever. You have one that's going to be for your kick down, that's attached to your throttle or your throttle on your carburetor. That's going to be a 7/16. You loosen that one, then you can pry it off. I've already got it loosened. I may be able to get it pried off from here. It should just pop right off. Up, lose my light. It's right in my way. Let me get this off. There's gonna be another one on the bottom. That 7/16 there on the bottom that you can pull off, and then you can pull that bottom arm off. And then that'll give us access to that seal so we can try to get it pulled out. Alright, guys, I got that seal out. I wasn't able to use that little puller. What I had to do is use a small flathead and just kind of wiggle it slowly out. But that's the culprit of our leak. Now we just need to put the new one in. I went ahead, before I cleaned it up, I cleaned around that area real well, because I didn't want any debris falling down into that little space before I'm able to put that new seal in. So let me grab that new seal. Let's start getting this all set up, and we'll start getting this replaced. Okay, so I've got the seal in place. I've got a 22 socket that's basically the perfect size that goes just over that, and I don't know if you guys can tell or not, it's close to being fully seated, but we need to make sure this thing is fully seated. There is a flat spot on this shaft here, and we have to get that seal past that so it'll seal. So I'm over here banging away on that impact socket. I'm using this broken off sledgehammer, and I'm getting ready to try some smaller hammers so we can get this seal put the rest of the way in here. And it's hard to give you guys a good view of what I'm doing while I'm doing it, so I'm just kind of giving you guys updates. So I'll bring it back once we get it seated. All right, guys, we got it all put back together. That shift shaft seal is replaced. We'll keep an eye on it for the next few days, make sure it doesn't start leaking again, but that leak should be resolved. I did go ahead and take a look at this neutral safety switch. There is a plug right up there that had a harness on it that was just kind of hanging off of that lip there. It did have some busted wires on it, so I went ahead and made the repair on it. That's there on the floor. Had some burnt wires, and had one that was busted, and then the end of the plug itself was all filled with mud because it's been unplugged for a while. So I sprayed some electronic cleaner in there. I'm gonna spray some electronic cleaner up in the other plugs up there, and then we'll plug this in. And I guess we can give it a shot on the reverse lights. My hopes aren't high, but yeah, it's worth a shot. All right, got that all plugged in. all ran, so it's not gonna touch nothing. I've got the truck in reverse. Let's get up. Got it in reverse. And ka-chow. This one's working. That one isn't working because of the light socket itself is busted in there. You guys saw the last video. You guys will see that that needs replaced, but I do believe that that plug on that transmission is going to need replaced. It's definitely a weak connection. It wants to kind of come off. So we'll have to see if they sell a new plug for that, but that's up and working. That's another thing taken care of. All right, guys. Now that we've got that new seal in the transmission, yesterday while I was out here, I went ahead and did some tests underneath this hood, trying to figure out where that misfire is coming from, and I'll tell you what I found. So first step I did was I went ahead and pulled all the plugs out, went ahead and I ohmed them out, which I've never really heard of doing before, but I saw some videos about some spark plugs that apparently were all over the place, like 11 ohms and 9 ohms, and then the rest were like 6 to 5.5. This one, it was relatively even, I would say. It was roughly between 5.3 to about 7.5, somewhere around there. But I did go ahead and fire it up yesterday. Went ahead and pulled all the plug wires one at a time, made sure that those were getting spark on all the cylinders. But I did go ahead and find out some information. So let me go ahead and fire this girl up, and I'm going to show you how I found that out. All right, we got her fired up. Took us a second, but she did fire up. That choke definitely needs to be adjusted some more. It's an electronic choke, so we need to hook that up at some point. But after doing that test with all the plug wires, I found that all of them were getting spark. All the plugs seemed like they were okay. We did clean them in the previous video and put them back in to try to help, maybe in case one of them was fouled out. But what we got here is a laser thermometer, infrared thermometer, and the way I found out was, here, let me show you. So if I go around on each of these cylinders, you can see that one, 161. It'll start getting warmer as it's firing and shooting exhaust out. I'm gonna get a good shot on it here. And you guys see it's heating up, 195, 192, 178, 195. And then we look at number 7, 130, 148, 153. So number 7 is a cylinder we're not firing on. I'll show you this other side too. $237, $247, $250, $281, $180, $90. So yeah, that one's starting to get a little warmer. Yeah, there we go. So what that tells me is that on number 7 cylinder, we have either sticky valve, or it's going to be some sticky piston rings, or the piston rings are just worn out on that cylinder. So we definitely need to do an Italian tune-up on this girl. Throw some of that sea foam down the old throat of her, get her cleaned out some. It needs driven. It really needs driven. I think what happened was, and what I could say is what I think happened, because when we first fired this old girl up, we fired it up, ran great, no missing, it ran smooth, just adjusting timing, so on and so forth. And then after we did the valve covers and we cleaned off that top end a little bit, it started missing. So my best guess is that some of that junk from that driver's side back here in the back, because it was so dirty, and I can throw a little clip as to how dirty that was for anyone who hasn't seen right now. Here's that driver's side with the valve cover off. Man, look at that. That was the driver's side right there. And then the passenger side. Very gross. But with as dirty as that stuff was and us cleaning it out in there, I'm almost curious if some of that crap fell down in between the valve and the seat itself, where it seats it against the head, And I'm wondering if that's keeping our valve from closing all the way, and that's why we're not getting our good compression on that cylinder. You can do a compression test on that cylinder. That's going to tell you the same stuff that what I just found out by that infrared thermometer. So it'll either tell you it's going to have a sticky valve or sticky ring. So that is our misfire. So I'm glad that we know that none of the ignition stuff is the cause of that. But once we get that driven in some, it should clear up, I believe. So I think the next step I'm going to do, if I have some time, I'm going to have to check the time, but I think I'm going to try to switch out the steering wheel. So let's get in there and get that done. All right, we're going to pull this steering wheel off. We're just going to pop this little horn button off. And we should have, oh, what is that, 13/16 on there. Get that on there. Let's pop that off. And that's off. All right, I got a steering wheel puller on here. You can tell I had to make an adjustment with some spacers here because the bolts I have aren't right, or the right size, the right length. What am I doing? So go ahead and pop that off. We'll need to do the same thing. That's free, so go ahead and pull this back off. And I may need to use this on that other steering wheel, so let's see. So that, put this horn button back on. And we should be able to just pull that off. And there you go, steering wheel off. So let's go grab the one off of the steering column that came out of this truck, and let's slap that steering wheel on here. All right, we got the old steering wheel off of the old column. Just gonna slap her on. We need to plug this wire back down into here. Right there. And then our horn button. Chrysler. You shove that down in that little gap there, because this is going to go down just like that. Horn works. Steering wheel is changed out. Looks good. Looks like we never even touched it. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Twisted Rich Garage. We were able to get that steering wheel changed out, nice and easy like, with the steering wheel puller. Super simple job, not real hard. Now the transmission leak itself though, that was a difficult little job. After a bunch of tapping for probably 40 minutes to an hour, just slowly tapping it down, we got it to seat, and we were able to get it all put back together. So hopefully that leak is all resolved. I did go ahead and throw a pan underneath it to catch anything, just in case for some odd reason it decides that it wants to leak again. So we'll have to keep an eye on that over the next couple of days. But I think the next video, guys, I'm gonna put out for you guys, is definitely gonna be the video on the gauge cluster. I didn't want to throw that in this video because it's a whole nother deal, and I want to make sure that it's all installed and everything's working, and kind of get you guys an idea of how I did that on my truck, and show you how I'm going to do it on this truck. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you guys out on the next one.